from Greater Sandton and beyond. Get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour. It's edition 189. It's week 14 of 2025. And need I remind you that the Sandton Times Hour is also available on all digital platforms. If you're into podcasts, if you're not into podcasts, if you're not sure what a podcast is, either which way, you can find the show on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, AfriPods, and all the leading podcast platforms in the world. And make sure you make it part of your weekly audio digest. I'm Alexander Leipner, and a very special welcome to you, and to you over there. If you are listening to the very first time to the Sandton Times Hour, and if you're a regular listener, if you're part of the family, the nation, the Sandton Times Hour nation in Johannesburg and Pretoria, across South Africa, and wherever you find yourself in the world right now, if it's online or on air, wherever you are, I'm happy to report that all is well in Sandton land. And as always, I encourage you to get in touch, because it's not just about me talking to you, it's about you also sharing your comments and feedback. You can use the email address editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media @Sandton Times, and of course, visit the website sandtontimes.co.za. Also, there's an exclusive WhatsApp line for the Sandton Times, 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. 084 726 3866. And that's for your voice notes, your text messages, your media, and whatever else you got. Make sure you use that. Joining me on the team this week again is Vincenzo behind the mixing desk, and he does it with that Italian flair that he has. I'm going to ask you about how you're feeling about Ferrari this year, but maybe that's opening a whole nother conversation, which we might have to keep for another day. But we're doing it all again for another week, and it's a packed show this week again. We've got some great interviews lined up. But keep your comments coming in, your thoughts, your input, all of that through the various channels, and it's always good to hear from you. What's lined up for this week? Who are we chatting to? In a bit, I'll be catching up with a highly successful businesswoman who, together with her husband, has opened a beautiful new luxury eco-lodge in Limpopo. And we'll be finding out a bit more about that and some of the incredible new innovations that they're looking to bring into the safari space in South Africa. You don't want to miss this. Then we're welcoming a new regular contributor, chatting about all things entertainment happening in and around Sandton. This is going to be great, and as always, look forward to getting your feedback on this segment. And finally, a local boutique hotel has marked its 20th year in business, and it has also elevated its fine dining. And if you've been there, well, I'd like to hear your feedback. And if you haven't been there, may it entice you to go try something. Stay listening. It's all coming up in the next hour.
Promote your brand. Advertise your business.
Our audience could be your next client. Contact the Sandton Times today. You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So Few Far Luvhondo takes glamping to a whole new level. And when we say glamping, I mean, you normally think about sort of like a tent structure. There's sort of a bathroom that's fixed, but the rest is maybe, movable, or you're thinking of something that's maybe even a little bit more elaborate than that. But this is a very different kind of glamping. I mean, I almost hate to call it glamping. It's actually sort of in a league of its own. It's a whole new eco-lodge that's opened in Limpopo. Let me give you a bit of an idea of where it is in Limpopo, because it's a big province. It's a beautiful province. If you're into baobab trees, this is the place to go to. Soutpansberg Mountains. It's close to Louis Trichardt, and it's in the 100,000 hectare UNESCO-listed Vembe Biosphere Reserve. This new getaway for those in Sandton who want to maybe take the trip, and it's a great road trip. You get to, as I say, explore Limpopo as you go up there. It was founded by a couple, Sarah and Jacob Dusek, and they're two highly successful entrepreneurs from the United States. And Sarah joins me on the line right now. And Sarah, I'd like to welcome you to the Sandton Times Hour.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here.
So, Sarah, before we get into Few Far Luvhondo, let's sort of rewind and go back a few years to how you got started as an entrepreneur in the outdoor hospitality space.
I did not start my career out as an entrepreneur. I actually started my career here on the continent, working for an NGO in Zimbabwe. So I was living just over the border from where our new lodge is in Limpopo in Zimbabwe for my first few years of my working life, and fell in love with the continent then. And I thought at the time I was gonna live here. No one was ever going to drag me away from living in Africa. Mugabe had other ideas about that, which made living in Zimbabwe a little bit more challenging than I had planned on. But effectively, that's when I caught the Africa bug. And Africa has, even though we've spent sort of long time out of the continent and recently came back about 5 years ago, Africa has played a very significant role in my business journey, my philosophies about life, my thinking about how I want to engage in the world. And my early years working for NGOs really inspired, strangely, a transition over into the business world, because I started thinking about how is it that we can solve some of the big systemic problems that I can see. And I was working for a health and AIDS education charity in Zimbabwe. And I really wanted to solve some of the big problems that we were engaging and trying to tackle here on the continent. And it's when I really realized that NGOs are maybe not the best fit for really getting to the root of problems, but that actually a business exists to solve a very specific problem. So it catapulted me onto a journey into social entrepreneurship. I married an American. We ended up living in the States, and my experience in Africa and where he's from in Montana inspired the idea to recreate the safari experience on American soil outside of national parks across the country. So, and we've been on a very long, big journey building that company.
That company was called Under Canvas, I believe, and I think the general principle was to set up sort of these very nice, luxurious, tented concepts, hospitality spaces outside of major national parks in the United States. I mean, you look at it now and you think, oh, well, that's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that?
No-brainer.
Yeah. But I suppose at the time there was nobody doing something like that.
No one was doing it. Yeah, no one was doing it, and no one was thinking about glamping. Didn't even exist when we started. Nobody was even really using the term. I didn't coin the term, but it wasn't something that was a thing that most people knew about. And so it was a very new concept that we brought to the States. And obviously, Africans have been enjoying the wonders of safari for hundreds of years. Not new to this continent, but taking it out of its original home and reimagining it for an American audience was brand new at that time. And we wanted to prove that it was possible to build hotels, because that's effectively what we built, that had low impact, low water usage, were off-grid, low footprints, so it could be zero waste and could create access to extraordinary places outdoors. And so that was the mission we set out to achieve.
Did you feel that a lot of these ideas came out of your experience in the NGO space in Zimbabwe, where people had to get through life with very little and having to work with what they have? Because I sometimes feel that a lot of these sustainable concepts are sort of what a lot of people have to deal with on a daily basis because they don't have access to running water or power.
Yes.
So you come up with other ideas, and obviously it's been engineered and brought up to speed to work in the environment it is in now. But did you feel that was a bit of an inspiration?
Yeah, for sure. And my own business journey was very much anchored around never having quite enough resources to do what we really wanted to do. So when you're trying to be very minimalist with your spend, it does force you to be creative. It does force you to make a plan. And Zimbabweans in particular, but Africans in general, are very brilliant at making a plan and overcoming the constant struggles we have with doing daily life. And, and the power not being on and, water not being predictable. And so, we get used to this idea of making things minimalist and taking care of ourselves and creating ways to make life work, even if no one's handing it all to us on a plate, for sure.
So Under Canvas, you then sold widely reportedly for $100 million, which is unbelievable. I mean, it's incredible.
Crazy, yes.
I mean, it's a remarkable achievement.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we didn't set out to do that, obviously. And I think the best businesses in the world are never just about trying to make money. They're always about trying to do something impactful, do something that drives change and moves the world forward. And certainly that's what we're trying to do now with how we are reimagining the safari experience again, this time back in its homeland, and thinking, what more can we do other than create, very fancy places to sleep? Because for me, it's no longer about, who has the nicest tent or who has the nicest game viewer or the best game. For me, I think there's something very powerful about connecting with the wilderness, about connecting with our planet, and connecting with ourselves and with each other, being able to immerse ourselves in wilderness and allow it to have its effect on us, and allow us to have a positive effect on it. And we got involved with this project in Limpopo because of realizing this 100,000 hectare area was not under any kind of conservation protection. The first farms were just gazetted this year to become nature reserve, which is, I think the first 11,000 hectares have now been proclaimed. We've got a long way to go, though, for the rest to be proclaimed. But it was this idea of, can we use our skills, our knowledge, our talents, our business acumen to protect an unprotected area? And can we use ecotourism as a tool for not only creating very unique and very different experiences in the wild, but can we also regenerate this area and protect it? And that, for me, was the impetus for doing what we're doing now.
Well, we're going to get into the details of this new property. I'm chatting to Sarah Dusek. She's the CEO of Few Far Luvhondo, which is in Limpopo. It's a new luxury eco lodge, but on a very different level. If you look at the design, if you look at the way it's put together, and there's some things on the different Sandton Times platforms if you want to go have a look on Instagram, on the website. We're going to take a quick break, and I'll be carrying on my conversation with Sarah in just a bit.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
Sarah, before the break, we were chatting about your journey, which has brought you to Limpopo, just outside of Louis Trichardt, this beautiful property. When I say beautiful, just to paint a picture for listeners, it has got the most incredible foliage and landscape and terrain. I mean, you've got the mountains, there's a waterfall there, but also just the trees and flora and fauna that just makes up that entire space. I've never seen anything quite like it. And you've then gone and placed this eco lodge into this sort of mix of natural beauty. But you've taken on a very interesting principle in terms of how you've built this. And I'm just trying to find the word that makes up this style of architecture. Biophilic. That's it. It's a principle that I wasn't too familiar with, but it's essentially using the surroundings as an inspiration for what you are placing there, which is technically artificial, but you're obviously using a lot of natural products and natural resources to make that happen.
Yeah, we tried to use as much as we humanly possibly could from the site itself, from the rock. We have a lot of rock. We're on a mountain, so there's lots of rock. So we used a lot of our own rocks for cladding and for actually building walls and pathways and many, many things. And wood. We've used sustainable wood from the area to create all our beams and decks, and all the wood that's used in the suites themselves have been processed through our own factory right there. And we're using heat-treated eucalyptus, which is a new product that we have worked on specifically because we didn't want to import Brazilian hardwoods all the way from the Amazon. We wanted to use the materials and the resources that we had right there and make something that is very sustainable and very local, very local.
Well, I had a chance to also have breakfast with your husband, Jacob, and we had a very interesting conversation around a piece of equipment that he's busy designing, which is going to certainly draw a lot of attention once it's up and running. And it's something called a Solfari Aerial Safari. And to possibly, once again, paint a picture for everyone, imagine a ski lift type structure that floats for 8 kilometers around this reserve. And you can sit in the ski lift, and it moves backwards and it moves forwards, and it's going to have a whole bunch of other attractive elements to it. As I say, it's busy I think it's the 7th or the 8th prototype you're working on, but hopefully by later this year it'll be up and running. This is a very different way of approaching safari, being able to view animals from the top down, sort of above the treetops.
The idea was sort of to create an easier way to access the mountain without having to put more roads in, without having to create more land disturbance, but allow guests access to the mountain in a much more silent, quiet way, and allow people to have a very, very different perspective of the mountain. So, most of us who've been on safari journeys before are used to bumping around in the bush, often on very flat terrain. But the Soapensberg is not flat. We have, a mountain that's the size of Table Mountain. I mean, it's a huge mountain area. And so we wanted to think about how could create an interesting reimagined safari experience and at the same time create access to this extraordinary mountain. So safari will be a cross between a cable car, like a gondola that you might find on Table Mountain, and a zip line experience. So there's nothing like it in the entire world, and it will be a guided adventure. Your guide will drive the safari vehicle and take you exploring across the mountain.
Well, I'm certainly keen to see this once this is up and running because, like you say, it is a world first. It's never been done before. And it sounds like a very adventurous and different way to explore the South African bush safari. But one other thing for those who like to keep their feet on the ground that I find also so incredible about Few Far Luvhondo was your kitchen, and more specifically Chef Socks, his team, and his very Western Cape influenced dishes, sourcing a lot of the produce from in and around the lodge, in and around the area, and just putting together the most exquisite meals. I mean, for people who are foodies, people enjoy food. Even if you don't enjoy food, you're just going to have to eat good food. And a selection of beverages to go with it. Why was that such an important element for you in terms of a safari escape?
I am a foodie, and I love to eat. And our home is in the Western Cape in Cape Town, and we are spoilt for choice. I honestly think South Africa is one of the most extraordinary places in the world to eat and drink. I mean, we have extraordinary wine here. We have extraordinary produce and some very, very, very talented chefs. And we wanted to create a unique culinary journey. We wanted the whole experience of being at Few Far Luvhondo to be a really amazing experience on so many different levels, be that from activities, be that from the views, from the experience down to the dining, the drinking, everything. And so we went out to search for some amazing young African talent, which we found, and allowed them to express Limpopo on a plate. We're very conscious about food miles, so we're trying to keep as much as we possibly can sourced from within a 50-mile radius. We're growing a lot of our own produce, and we're surrounded by some amazing farmers as well. So it's really an opportunity for us to be able to use local products, seasonal produce, and produce that reflects the land.
Well, I think it would be amiss of me to not ask you about your thoughts on the future of sustainable travel, of this type of approach to luxury safaris or luxury, let's call it glamping once again, not just in South Africa, but in many other places around the world. Because I know that this is just phase one. This is sort of a warm-up to what is to come, the overture of what you're planning to do. How do you see this all playing out in years to come?
For me, the word sustainable is so last decade in some senses, because now the urgency to do more than just be sustainable is so much more of an imperative. So for me now, we're thinking about building a regenerative business, not just a sustainable one. And for me, the difference is not only can we not do any harm, i.e., for me, that's the starting point, not doing any harm, which is basically what being sustainable is. It's just the baseline. Now I want to think about how do we regenerate? How does this business have an impact on regenerating the local community, regenerating the land? Our vision for the Soapensberg Mountains is to be a a verified carbon project so that it also starts sequestering more and more carbon because of the way we manage the land and because of the way we protect it and because of the way we restore grasslands and plant trees. And so, we have to start thinking about not just, not using any plastics or, using a minimal amount of water or thinking about what chemicals we don't use. Now we have to start thinking about how do we influence the area in which we're working and how do we start to regenerate it? And for me, that's social and environmental.
Very interesting. Well, there's not enough time to cover everything we need to discuss, but I encourage people to go onto the website, check it all out, have a read. I know they're busy also running a special at the moment if you'd like to go and have a look and pay them a visit and also get to see some of the things we've spoken about and also say, as the Sandton Times platforms will provide you with all of that. Sarah Dusek, CEO of Few Far Luvhondo, thank you for joining me on the Sandton Times Hour and for making the time to chat about this exciting new property.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a joy.
The best of talk and music in 1 hour. This is the Sandton Times Hour.
Taking you into the second half of the Sandton Times Hour. My name is Alexander Leipner, and if there's anything that sounded good on the show, something that sounded interesting, but you didn't get all the details, don't forget, go on to the show notes on the website, sandtontimes.co.za, and those show notes will have all the details you will need, further reading, breakdowns, discussions, and so much more, and you're not going to be left wanting on information. Of course, you can always connect with the Sandton Times on social media at Sandton Times on your preferred social media platform, and also use the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. That's 084 726 3866, and send through your voice notes, your text messages, and whatever else you've got. And that's the Sandton Times' exclusive WhatsApp line. Well, something I'm really excited about is to chat about some of the cultural and entertainment and all other things happening in and around Sandton. And there's two very interesting things happening both off-screen and on-screen. But here to chat about this is entertainment commentator for the Sandton Times, Tat Wolfen. And Tat, it's good to connect with you on this occasion.
Alex, it is so good to finally be on the Sandton Times. I mean, I don't have to tell you that I've known you since the Anglo-Boer War. We were younger dogs back then.
Very much so. I think it goes back about 25 years, but yet here we are still chatting and still going strong, Tat. Without a delay, I'm going to get into some of the stuff you want to chat to us about this week, because I know there's always so much to talk about. One of them is a musical that's on at the Monte Cassino Teatro. It's a Tony Award-winning musical called Dear Evan Hansen that is running till the 6th of April, and you and I went to go watch it, although I ended up walking out halfway through because I thought it was the end of the show and didn't realize it was an interval.
Well, as long as you didn't end up walking out because you didn't like the show, but you must have thought it was quite odd that the show would end at that point. Totally.
I didn't realize the next day. See, it shows you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do a radio show and a podcast.
There's no accounting for you. All righty. But I'm really sad that you didn't finish the show off, and I would urge you to finish it off. There's only a week left to see the show, dude. But the show before this was My Fair Lady, right, at the Teatro.
Which was brilliant, by the way.
Yeah. And you couldn't find two shows that are more different culturally, musically, in terms of where they find themselves on the sort of time trend spectrum, but both brilliant productions. I went and I knew that it was a Broadway hit, but I went and I made a point of not trying to find out what the show was about. And I must tell you, I was really, really impressed. Without giving away really anything of the plot lines, I'm going to just tell you that it's about these two neurally atypical youngsters and the families they come from. The one has a single mom, and the other has two parents and a sister. But both these kids have what you might call issues, okay? You might call them issues in wiring. And I'm so glad that movies and plays are coming out. There's a whole rash of them coming out these days that deal with the topic of autism, of bipolar, etc. Because people need to be conscientized. There's a weird kid at school, and people tease him because he's withdrawn or whatever. I think we actually need to see more stuff like that. So the next time you go to school or to work or whatever your environment is, you can be aware that maybe that person is strange because that's the way their brain is wired. And maybe you could be more empathetic and try to communicate with that person, you know. And having said that, the player doesn't feel like an educational tract. You know, it's certainly entertaining, dramatic, and it actually is a musical. It's very unusual, I suppose, to see a musical on a kind of a serious topic. It doesn't mean that it's without its laughs. I found it entertaining. I found it moving. And I've got to tell you another thing about it, and that is the set. The set design blew me away. And I'm actually going to make up a term for it that I don't think it has ever been used before. I'm going to call it soft industrial.
Yeah.
Because do you remember it's quite a brutal looking design. There's a core in the middle of the stage around like a big column, and the set pieces revolve around that column. So if it's a bedroom or dining room or whatever it is, and then there are these what looks like lift shafts on either side of that. And the frame, it's all in bare metal frames, which are illuminated by LED lighting, mainly blue LED lighting. So it's quite cold, but then there are video elements within that as well, which softens the effect because they have things that sort of ignite your emotions. You know, so it's an interesting combination of stark and bare, but then also now there's the color element and the emotional element of the visuals that you see. Alex, I'm going to say it again. I was actually blown away by this production. A lot of people have said to me, well, you know, it's not a very commercial theme. They don't know how many bums it'll put on seats, but it's about human beings. And who in that audience is not a human being? Who can't relate to being or having been a child or a parent or a sibling? You know, these are all universal themes. And I think that there'll be something in there for everyone.
Yeah.
Really do.
Well, look, I mean, from the part that I saw, I agree with you. The staging was very contemporary, very clever, very modern. The acting was fantastic. And I mean, a quick warning to parents, it is dealing with very mature topics. There is a bit of swearing, blasphemy, those kind of things in the show. So, so you're not walking into this completely blind. But it's on till the 6th of April. And if you do get a chance to see it, and if you have seen it, drop us a line. Use the WhatsApp line 084-726-3866. It'd be good to hear from you as to what you thought of the show. Tat, time moving very quickly on our side. So let's get into the David Blaine Do Not Attempt, which is a 6-part documentary series, which I believe is coming up on National Geographic.
Yeah, David Blaine Do Not Attempt is a new series that's has broken on the National Geographic channel, which is on the DSTV channels, and will in time, I'm sure, come to Disney Plus as well. National Geographic has such a broad range of topics. You know, when I was a kid, National Geographic was really only about countries and particular tribes that lived in particular countries, but now it covers sharks, tigers, elephants, wars, all sorts of things, and there's something for everyone in National Geographic. And David Blaine, you're thinking, okay, magician, okay?
Yeah.
But he doesn't do magic in the show. Certainly from the episode that we were previewed, the episode that we were shown was the one shot in South Africa. And he covers these dangerous activities happening in South Africa. So one of the things he does is spinning. Do you know this thing that
with the cars
in the townships?
Yes,
where they spin cars at outrageous speeds. I didn't even know that. Firstly, I didn't know that it originated in South Africa. I didn't know that they actually even have arenas where they have like spinning, evenings. So spinning also has these arenas where they have stadia, they have kind of stands, and people go to see this stuff. And I mean, you watch this stuff and you're thinking, these guys are like nuts, because it's dangerous and it's scary, and you see these tires popping and flames shooting out the backs of the cars. So David Blaine takes part in that, and he does a very, very scary stunt, and that hangs out of the window of a car. He joins a shark whisperer underwater off the coast of Durban, where the guy shows you, oh no, it's very easy. So you can hypnotize sharks. You just turn them upside down like this and tweak their fins. I'm thinking, really?
Rather him than
why
me.
hadn't you told me that before? Jeez, yeah. And then And then David Blaine finally joins this guy in a sort of a glass cage with mambas, green mambas and black mambas. And apparently when they were shooting this, David Blaine couldn't go in initially. He had to calm down because his heartbeat had gone so high that he just knew that he couldn't deal with it.
So seemingly everyday people doing sort of magical things, even though they're not magical, but they seem to be almost an illusion.
Well, it's not everyday people. They're each sort of subject specialists. Okay,
Yeah.
so the shark guy knows what he's doing. The mamba guy is a big mamba fundi. So they're not everyday. I suppose they would look everyday if you saw them at Four Ways Mall,
Yeah.
or Sandton City, more crucially. But well, he keeps on saying that it's magic in the sense that it's when you see a magic show, you're thinking, well, I can't believe this can't be true. And it's the same way when you look at these people, the shark whisperer, the snake guy, whatever, you're thinking, no, there's no ways, And so he's kind of exploring another realm of magic in its broader sense, I guess.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Dear Evan Hansen, the musical on at Monte Casino, and of course, David Blaine, Do Not Attempt. We'll put more information and details up on the website. So if you didn't catch all the intricate details, dates, times, all of that, we'll put it up on the website. Entertainment commentator for the Sandton Times, Tat Wolfen. Good to have you on the show.
It's so good to be on. Thank you.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So the Peech Hotel in Melrose marked its 20th anniversary last year, and of late has become the home to a well-established eatery called the Pot Luck Club. For those of you who've been to Cape Town regularly know the brand, but it also did move up to Johannesburg a couple of years ago. And this is under the guidance of Chef Luke Dale Roberts, and here to chat to me about the hotel's growth, success, and of course now its new food offering is founder and owner of the Peech Hotel, James Peech. James, good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thanks, Alex. Good to be here. Always a pleasure.
James, let's get into the hotel's sort of a history first. I mean, 20 years is a remarkable achievement for any business, and congratulations on that. What do you think of when you reflect on these 20 years? I mean, how did it all get started, and how has it all played out?
Sure. We really started by hook or by crook. I mean, I think officially we opened with 2 rooms in November 2004. And we grew it over the years, and then eventually we acquired the property next door, and now we've got 32 rooms. But it's been a long and very entertaining journey. I've grown up a lot in that process, and the hotel has too. So we actually launched some more rooms in 2018, and the hashtag we were using then was the Peech has grown up. But actually, I think that was a bit premature, and the Peech is only now fully grown up. But now we're 20 years old. We're well established in Joburg and in the sort of accommodation scene in South Africa, if you like. And the added addition of Luke's restaurant here also feels like part of that same journey. So it's good. It's really nice to be here, nice to have got where we've got, and just to be a part of Joburg and the success of the city.
Well, listen, it's a remarkable property, and it really is a beautiful little, I'd like to call it almost like a chocolate box, because it is big enough to really stand its ground, but also still intimate enough to have that personal touch, which I think a lot of people enjoy. I was just trying to do the numbers now. I think I was about 22 or 23 when I first met you, when you first started the Peech Hotel, which is just unbelievable. And it's been great to see it grow over the years. A lot of people romanticize the idea of running a hotel or running sort of a bistro or whatever it is in the hospitality space, but the reality is that it's quite a lot of work, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, when we started, we were, as I said, I didn't actually earn a salary out of this thing until I had 10 rooms, and only then did it sort of become a proper business. So it's a labor of love, definitely. But on the other side, like, I go into work every morning and I love what I do, and I work in a fun and an exciting industry. We meet all kinds of people from all walks of life. We've had presidents stay here, we've had musicians stay here. And one of the fun elements of hospitality is that, like, all humans have to sleep somewhere and have to eat somewhere. So it's an industry that actually touches everybody, from the highest to the lowest. So it's an interesting industry because you just meet lots of interesting people, and that makes it very rewarding. But yeah, look, I love what I do, and it's been a fun journey.
Give us a quick taste of your audience. I mean, is it international, local? Is it, and when I say local, not just South African, but also is it people in and around Sandton who kind of decide we're going to have a weekend away and we're going to sort of just drive down the road and stay somewhere else? Or are people coming from further afield?
Yeah, we get a nice mixture of people. I mean, some hotels tend to be very corporate and other hotels tend to be very leisure. One of the pleasures of being in a city is you get both. So we will have business people, and they might be doing the usual route up from Cape Town or Durbs, coming up to do some business up here. And we get a lot of foreign business as well. So I think 1 in 3 of our guests is actually Americans. We do a lot of stuff with the States, and that's true for the whole of the sort of tourism accommodation sector in South Africa. So there's a lot of business comes out of the States. We get, people who are totally fresh to Africa as a continent. So they really have no idea what to expect. And we get a lot of South Africans who've gone overseas and they come back here and then they're coming on holiday, but they also come and see family in Joburg. And then, we get Joburgers, like, you want to take a partner out and treat for a weekend or for a night or something like that. So we do quite a lot of that business too. So we're lucky. We have a whole mixture of people. So you could be sitting next to an American, you could be sitting next to someone from Durbs, you can be sitting next to someone from Morningside. It's a nice blend.
Now, let's touch on the food side of it. And I remember having the most incredible mussels and fries many, many years ago at the bistro that you used to have, which I still talk about to this day and are still to be matched. And now you've brought in Chef Luke Dale Roberts. You've come up with this very unique partnership where he's now brought the Potluck Club into a really lovely space in the hotel. Tell us how that came about, how that evolved, and also what the response has been like so far, because you've been open for a bit now.
Yeah, we opened on Valentine's Day, or Valentine's Week, actually, which was a baptism by fire. But there's nothing like going from 0 to 100 in a millisecond. But response has been fantastic. We've had various iterations of a sort of partnership ever since COVID. Actually, we partnered for a while with Chef Candice Phillips. She's now at Syra in her own restaurant in the Houghton Hotel. We did something with Chef James Dyack, the owner of Coobs, formerly Coobs in Il Contadino. But I felt last year it was just time for a change, and a very fortuitous phone call put me in touch with Chef Luke. And he said to me that he was looking for a change of venue for his restaurant in Rosebank. And I said to him, well, as it so happens, I happen to have a venue and it's free from the 1st of Jan. So we said, basically, let's do it. It was Christmas time in Joburg, so absolutely nothing happened. You can imagine mid-November, December last year. Luke and I woke up in early Jan, or probably more me, I think, than Luke. And I had a bit of an aha moment, and we turned the space around and opened for Valentine's Day. So in 6 weeks, we pulled that restaurant apart, rebuilt it, and brought in a lot of the elements that Luke already had up in Rosebank to make it sort of have a fresh feel, but still a potluck feel. So it's still got a lot of that the elements of the potluck. And yeah, look, it's been a roaring success. We're pumping, so it's good. Joburg needs spaces. We're doing well.
Well, for those people who know the Potluck Club, it's all those things that you have come to know it for and more. I know that they've kept some hot favorites on the menu. They've added a couple of new things. We've put the whole rundown on the website. If you hop onto sandtontimes.co.za, you can have a look at a couple of pictures, get a bit of inspiration. But moreover, I encourage you to go have a look, make a booking, and give it a try yourself. If it's a bit of a rowdy evening, you might want to sleep over as well and not drive home after a couple of tipples.
Absolutely.
But yeah. James, Peech, listen, it's so great to catch up with you, and once again, congratulations on this milestone for the hotel, but also on welcoming some new gourmet food to your hospitality.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, a pleasure. We'll hopefully chat more in the future. We'll have more exciting things to talk about.
That's it, James, and that's it for the show. That's all we have time for this week on the Sandton Times Hour. And as always, don't forget to go look for it online. Podcast platforms, whichever your favorite one is, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and so many more. Go check it out. You'll find it there, and subscribe. You can also email editor@sandtontimes.co.za if you want to get in touch or get behind the scenes on Instagram Reels, if you follow at Sandton Times on Instagram, or check it out on Facebook or on X, or wherever you feel comfortable. Also, check out the website, sandtontimes.co.za, and save the WhatsApp number, the Sandton Times exclusive WhatsApp number, 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866, 084 726 3866. And that's for your voice notes, your text messages, and what other media you might have. Thank you to the guests who made time to be on the show this week, as well as the team behind the mic, behind the scenes, behind the mixing desk, behind the entire setup that makes this churn. I really do thank you for all your energy and your efforts. And of course, to you, those who listen every single week, who make the effort, who are part of the team as well. Thank you. And God willing, we'll do it all again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.